Hi, and welcome to Yoga Talks Live. I'm Ashleigh Sargent. I am your host, and I'm here with Dayna Seraye. Nice to have you here.
So nice to be here, Ashleigh.
Welcome to the first live screening or live show that we've ever really done here on Gaia. And originally we were going to be talking with Nicole Golden, but she's sick and she's taking care of herself and her baby, so she'll be here next week. So this week, Dayna and I are going to be speaking about Kundalini. What is Kundalini? We also have here in the studio with us Jacqueline. Jacqueline is the head of Yoga Publishing, and she is going to be relaying your live questions to us as we move through our conversation. So Dayna, thanks for being here.
And, such a pleasure.
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
I love always sitting down and talking with you.
So fun.
Yeah.
And especially about this topic.
I know.
Kundalini.
There's so much to say about Kundalini, really. And I actually think there's also a lot of confusion or sometimes fear around Kundalini.
Yeah.
And I hope we can break that up today.
Me too.
Yeah. So I want to start with one of the main reasons why we wanted to talk to you about Kundalini is your classes that are on Yoga Every Day, our series here on Gaia. You tend to do practices that a lot of people associate with the Kundalini style of yoga, and usually associate you with being a Kundalini teacher. But I've asked some questions like, well, she's not wearing white, and you know, what is this all about? And so I want to get into that a little bit today, because let's start by kind of defining, I think, the two main key aspects of Kundalini, which is Kundalini as an energy of a force of awakening consciousness, a force of transformation.
Yeah.
And also Kundalini as the style or the tradition of yoga that we have seen popularized in the West by Yogi Bhajan.
Yes.
And that we see kind of in Kundalini classes or studios where the teachers wear white. You do particular practices for transformation. There's also a lot of mantra practice. And how are these things similar, and also how are they different? So tell us a little bit about your experience and your lineage tradition to this concept of Kundalini.
Well, Kundalini really is, I like what you said, it's that energy of awakening of consciousness. And it is said that Kundalini comes in with us when we incarnate into these bodies and then lies dormant at the base of our spine, coiled 3.5 times around in a little serpentine ball at the base of the spine. And the energy of Kundalini is that infinite potential of our true nature. And it also sits there at the base of the spine with our blocks to that. So that's a lot of fear, a lot of energy, heavy energy, that kind of keeps that energy down and keeps us feeling limited. So there's really this infinite ability to experience ourselves as consciousness and as vast, magnificent, brilliant beings. But there's all this limitation that we feel on top of that holds that energy down. So once that energy starts to move and awaken and rise in our being and open our energy centers, then we start to feel more of that natural flow of energy, that true essential nature that we are. So this is how I really approach Kundalini. And in my practices and my learnings, I've certainly done a lot of Kundalini Yogi by Yogi Bhajan. And I love that tradition. It's very, it's powerful. It's a technology. It's a system that was developed by a brilliant guru, a brilliant teacher who really brought together so many streams in a way that was very applicable to our Western culture. And so there's just an incredible genius to that technology, they like to call, and I love it. And for me, what I've studied and learned is more of a Himalayan Kundalini stream, a Himalayan kriya stream. So it doesn't use Gurmukhi, which is the language that Yogi Bhajan uses from the Sikh tradition. It uses Vedic mantras and tantric mantras, bija sounds, some of the sounds that we're more familiar with Hatha yoga. And it's a practice, really. What I love about the kriya tradition that I've been exposed to and practiced so deeply in my life is that it really works to open our energy body. It works on the energetic level, and it increases our vitality. It builds prana. And oftentimes the asana practices, they're really, really useful at circulating energy and grounding us. And there's activation sometimes, but really that kriya and the powerful pranayama practices, they come in and they build our vitality. And then we come into, what I like to do is then bring in the asana to help us ground and circulate and sort of embody that fully in every cell. And the kriya really helps to get into the cells and to clear out stuck energy. So that can be conditioning, it can be limitations, it can be emotional stagnation, it can be traumas that we've experienced early in life. So many things, limiting beliefs, and it all gets like lodged in our cells and in our biomemory. And so the kriyas are so powerful at coming in and moving that energy and increasing our vitality and giving us that experience of, it's really a natural high that we get through these kriyas. It opens us. It's a quick shift of our energy, and it has the capacity to really shift our consciousness quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And this is a really great thing, I think, to address on, and then we'll start to take some questions. But this idea of Kundalini awakening, it's kind of been like a buzzword.
Yeah, right.
It's getting more and more popular now.
Right.
And there's also been kind of stories about Kundalini awakenings being scary or being dangerous, when these awakenings or these energetic shifts happen within us. And my teacher, Sally Kempton, works with a tradition that really doesn't so much do as many forceful type practices to be able to awaken Kundalini energy and kind of move this energy in the body, but also still has these profound experiences of awakening. And one great question that I've heard her speak to, which I really love, is, what are the signs of a Kundalini awakening? What does that look like? How do I know if I'm having one of these things? And the answer that she shares, which I really love, is that there's many different levels and many different experiences of Kundalini awakening. It can manifest as kind of gentle and as soft as our desire to even do yoga. Like, what is this thing? And as we start to get on our mat or just start to learn breathing techniques with movement or meditation techniques, that we start to feel like, wow, this feels really good. Just even that connection of like, whoa, this feels really good. I'm going to make this a priority in my life. That even that is an awakening of our consciousness, an awakening of our self that was kind of otherwise turned outward into the world. This is another experience of Kundalini, is when Kundalini is asleep, our primary focus of our energy, of our attention, is into the workings of the outside world. We mostly, we can get wrapped up into status, into money, into accumulation of material goods. And that actually, this even just gentle experience of, wow, maybe those things are a little bit less important. Maybe I'm actually going to prioritize meditating or doing yoga in the morning as opposed to sleeping right till the end of my alarm and then just, spurting out of bed and grabbing coffee and leaving. Like, that actually is like, a gentle Kundalini awakening. And then we may feel it even stronger where we start to feel like our major priorities in our life shift. Like, oh my God, do I want to be in this job? Do I want to eat this food? Do I want to be around these people? What are the choices that I'm making? Like, our whole perspective of the universe may even start to come into question. And sometimes we go into to crisis in these types of moments of like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can even speak to my family anymore, and I don't want to change my whole life. Am I spinning out of control? This can be an experience. And those experiences, evolve, and then the kind of most intense Kundalini awakening she speaks about is the kind of energy that creates gurus. It's the energy that completely transforms one's consciousness. And we see it not a lot in the world, right? But to an awakened being, we've seen it in someone like Mother Teresa, the Dalai Lama, other forms of Indian gurus, where they have this capacity to live in a state of blissful awareness, and actually still be kind of in the world. Right. So I think, that for me was a really helpful understanding to say, like, okay, what is the Kundalini? And so I want to hear from you. I know there's a lot of people tuned in right now. And Jacqueline, can you give us a question? What are people asking?
Well, we have some great questions coming in from our members right now. a particular question that's arising is about how Kundalini is all about tapping into that energy source that already exists in our bodies. And when we do this, how can we actually regulate the amount of energy that is produced and that is being awakened? And is there any dangers to this?
Great question. Yeah, you want to chime in on that?
Yeah. Well, the kriya practices and the pranayama practices and the meditation practices are really designed to modulate kind of how much energy comes in. And like I said before, I think in my personal practice, I think it's really important to do the grounding practices too and the circulating practices. So always coming back to stillness, super important. Always moving the energy in some way through, maybe it's a dancing, maybe it's moving the energy this way to circulate, or asana, really helpful to really circulate in the body. So I feel like there's a balance of doing these very activating practices that we see in Kundalini Yoga, and also really focusing on distributing that energy and grounding it back into the earth.
Like Shavasana.
Like Shavasana.
Or sitting in meditation.
Or sitting in meditation, finding that stillness and really feeling the subtleties.
Yeah.
And I think this is what you were speaking to before, that it doesn't have to be enormous.
Sure.
But really tuning into subtlety is also very powerful.
Yeah.
And it, we hear of these of people going through spontaneous awakenings and it really shifting them so dramatically that it does feel scary. It's sort of like, it's like a dissolution of the ego. And the ego identity keeps us safe. It keeps us comfortable as we move through this time-space dimension of reality. So we know how to put one foot in front of the other and turn our car on and eat our food in the morning. And there's this whole structure. We know how to relate to our partners or our children and work in the world. We're conditioned, and we have ways that we move through this world that work for us and they're comfortable. When these spontaneous awakenings come, it can really shatter this sort of ego identity that helps us move through the world in that way. And so it can feel really scary. I like to think of it as kind of like chaos. There's a chaotic dissolution, and we don't really know where we are anymore. We don't know what serves anymore. Like you said, maybe the job falls away, or this partnership isn't working anymore. Like everything can come into question when what we've been so grounded and based in our terms of our identity in the world. Like, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a teacher. When that shatters, which I think can really happen with Kundalini, because we tap into the infinity, the cosmic consciousness, that we are so much greater than this physical form.
Kind of like, who are you if you're not just those things?
Who are you if you're not just those things? Exactly. And it can cause, we speak of in yoga, the cities, these superpowers. Maybe we start to be more psychic. We tune in, we know something. How would we be able to know that? So I think there's a way that some of these spontaneous awakenings can just really blow us kind of open to the point where it can feel scary.
Yeah.
And grounding and integrating practices really helpful for that. And then also just the sort of techniques of kriya and meditations and maybe some of all kinds of different techniques. They modulate us. The idea is that we do these regularly, consistently, so that we're building our energy, so we have the capacity to hold more energy in our bodies and in our life.
Yeah, and this is a great point to understand energy from the kind of more scientific realm of things. My teacher, I've often heard, speaks about this and the idea that, if we start to turn the energy on so much without doing these grounding practices, without actually building the container of our body, meaning actually getting physically stronger, without training the breath capacity to be able to be deeper, without also training the mind to be able to be more one-pointed focus, all of these things through breath practices, through meditation practices, then it's like we're actually just pouring more energy into a cable that isn't grounded.
Exactly.
And that's when you can literally blow a circuit or blow a fuse. And that's what people can experience. Right. So we kind of get addicted a little bit sometimes, especially in our Western world, to where there's so much pressure to go, 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 do. We can be in a very competitive realm. It's really about high performance, neurohacking, top performance, do things faster, do more multitasking, more. That sometimes, we can get a little bit addicted to the energy, right? We see that happening in our society where we just want to do these like really intense physical practices or fast practices and then leave before Shavasana. And you like run and like go grab a Starbucks. And then you're immediately like all this, excuse me, energy is turned on in your body. And then you're like pumping it with caffeine. And then you get road rage. And you start to have an experience maybe that you're like, I don't know why I'm so inordinately angry or I'm so inordinately sad. Part of those things, while they're part of the process of awakening and we start to get comfortable, you know, one of the things people think is like, oh my God, I'm going to be on a spiritual path. It feels so nice. Like, no, usually when we're awakening, it's not very comfortable. But that we taking this time to really ground the Shavasana, the Yoga Nidra, the calming breath practices, the still points of meditation are so essential, you know, to grounding.
And it's a balance, you know, in yoga means union. It's the bringing together of the polarities. So when we have only the activating practices and not the grounding, then we're going to be out of balance. But when we can bring them together and meet there in the middle, like know what we need. Like right now, I need a little bit more activating. I need to increase my vitality. I need to be able to face this day feeling invincible. Fearless. You know, there are practices for that. And then when we need to soften and calm our systems and find that inner peace that so many of us need in this world at this time, then we get to find those practices and then bringing them both together because we need both, really. We need that energy cultivation. You know, so many of us are depressed in this world right now. So there's like that energy is so low in our system that there's, my teacher in India says we have a crisis of energy. So some people can't sleep at night. But then they're like, but then they're so tired in the day. So they don't have the right amount of energy to face life as life comes towards them, to meet life in whatever is needed. They can't sit still, and yet they can't sleep at night. So there's this, and then other people are so overwhelmed. There's so much bombarding them, and they don't have, it's like too much.
Lose our ability to act.
So there's this crisis of energy, and so what these types of practices, when we cultivate them regularly, they give us the capacity to show up, to have the right energy for anything that life brings us. So we get to sit back into our meditation and to get to show up and meet whatever intensity arises in our life. So it gives you to be infinitely adaptable. And then at the same time, we really relax and release and surrender when that's what's asked of us. And both of those things are something that I feel like our world needs in mass right now.
Agreed. I hear there's more questions. We're turning up some ideas here.
Okay.
Jacqueline, you got another question for us?
So when we're having these powerful spiritual experiences and awakenings, they can often be incompatible with our current life situation and even our relationships in our lives. So one of our members, Gina, is asking for some advice and some guidance in her own life. She's been experiencing some powerful awakenings surfacing recently with her dedication to her yoga practice. And she's realizing that her life partner is not really on the same page and is headed in a different direction. She's been with this partner for 41 years, and she's struggling with the realization that she is on this journey of change and spiritual growth, and he's not on the same direction.
Thank you, Gina. I feel you. That is a really big question, and I think we both feel we can talk to that one. And 41 years, wow, congratulations. And congratulations on really dedicating yourself to your own practice and your own personal path. I think we can go down a couple routes of this, because we can. There's always the paradox, right? I was going to say that, sometimes we feel. I can speak from my personal experience in this sense, is that I have actually acted quite intensely towards this experience before, and turned my entire life upside down, feeling that I'm on this path and I need to be with a partner that is as vivacious on this path as me, and the same path as me. Turned my life and multiple people's lives upside down for that. Really only to continue to deeply come back to, like, this is my path and my awakening. And for me, I don't necessarily, well, I thought I did many times, and to a certain extent I do, but I don't even actually think now that I want my partner to be on the same path as me. But of course, I want my partner to be attuned and understanding and supporting of that path.
Right.
And I think there's two pieces we learn here, which is what is our own individual path, and what is what's my needs individually with a partner. How close do they need to be on that path?
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
You know, I think we've talked about this, so I think this will be good to hear from you.
It's such a personal choice. You know, there's no right or wrong to any of these questions. And it's such a personal tuning in to what really deeply we feel we need. And I feel like what you just spoke was really interesting. Like, we can be really intense about it. Like, something awakens in us and we get excited. And it's like, wow, like, I just want to change my whole life. And totally, you know, which is beautiful. And sometimes that's what we're called to do. And sometimes
it's perfect to do that.
And sometimes it's perfect to do that. And sometimes, like, wow, like, let me take some breaths. Let me just, like, give it some time and see what happens in a month, in a few months, in a year maybe. You know, sometimes we have to breathe a little bit, knowing that when these awakenings first start happening, I like to think of it as like when we're, you know, carving like a gemstone or something. Like, it can be so rough at first. Like the sanding, we're using the roughest sanding paper and it's like big chunks are flying off. And then at a certain point, we start refining, and it becomes like a little smaller, and we refine more, and we refine. So in that beginning stages, it can feel like there's so much happening. And to just kind of ride that out a little bit, to know that, you know, this energy is going to keep moving, keep flowing, and we can be patient also with the process and gentle with ourselves. And so it's just such a personal tuning into what our soul evolution is calling for us.
Sure.
And there's really, you know, no right or wrong answer to that. And 41 years is a whole lot of life to share with someone. And to really honor, you know, where your journey has brought you in those 41 years and the gifts of this relationship. And I just feel like that honoring is so important. And whatever choice you come to from that honoring, you know, it's your soul's path that really chooses what's right for you. And there's no right or wrong. I just feel like that's so important for everyone to know. And one person's path might be to stay with their partner, and another might be to choose to move on. And it's really such a deep personal decision.
Yeah. And like you said, when we're tapping into Kundalini energy, we're tapping into infinite possibility. I think this is one of the trickiest things about really tapping into awakened consciousness, is that there literally is infinite possibility.
Exactly.
The Kundalini energy is known as the feminine energy of consciousness. So we have Shiva and Shakti energy. And one of the things that I've heard many times is that there's no rest to the dance, to the movement, to the potentiality of Shakti, of energy, unless we choose to be able to take some rest from that. So it can feel and be tumultuous that you're tapping in, Gina, to this real infinite possibility, and it can be painful, and it can be scary, and it can be confusing. And that what it is that's awakening of your own true intuition and nature. And so you're not alone, and sit with it and be with it and take some time. And also the beauty of really awakened Kundalini can be empowered speech, you know, and the ability to actually communicate needs and concerns to your partner, to yourself in a new way, and even dream up new ways of being together, of being alone, that help to facilitate that awakening for you. Yeah.
I think that's really beautiful to remember that infinite possibility, and that when we play in these realms of awakening energy, anything's possible. And when we change ourselves, when we do the inner work and really refine, our world has to change around us, and the people in our world change too. Yeah. There's shifts that happen in our, you know, family system because of what we're doing here, and there's shifts that are happening in the world because of what we're doing here. So just like to really hold that, like, change is possible for everyone.
And it looks different for
and
everyone.
It looks different for everyone. And there's quantum healing possibility in it all.
Yeah. And everybody's a yogi.
Mm-hmm.
In one way or another. That's a deep one to go down. But, you know, we sometimes think it has to look one way or be one way, but really, you know, everyone is in service and is awakening and evolving in their own way.
And it's happening fast right now on the planet. It's happening
Yeah.
fast. People are waking up quickly, and they have their own ways of doing that. So just really honoring that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we have time for another question. How are we looking?
We're looking real good. So, how would you guys feel about doing an on the mat question?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it?
Yeah?
Sure.
Sure.
So, Dayna, you were mentioning earlier that fear and depression and anxiety can sort of inhibit the rising of the Kundalini. And so we have a member, Unbound, that's asking if there's any practices, either breath practices or kriya practices, that can help to clear this stuck energy.
So many.
Yeah.
There's so many. Should we go over the mat?
Let's get ready to do it. So how about we do this? Why don't you show us a practice that is good for awakening, the stuck energy and things, and also for grounding.
Okay.
You know, so we kind of get the full thing like we spoke about.
Totally.
Awesome.
Okay, we got a few minutes, right?
Cool.
So
yeah,
quick.
let's do it. We got a couple minutes. We got like 5 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes.
Okay, cool. So we'll come on over to the mat.
Yeah, so I think we'll just work really simply for a couple minutes with the root chakra. And a bija sound for the root is lam, L-A-M. And the action of Mula Bandha is where we draw the base of the body up, 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 and we squeeze that energy up. And it's sort of like beginning to open and activate. There's a knot of energy at the base of the body that so much fear can be stuck in. And so when we activate in this way, we can really open that and start to move the energy up. So this is a process of that. So this one is using the chant Lam, and then drawing the base of the body up. The perineum squeezes in and up, and we'll just do this a few rounds over and over again, chanting Lam while drawing Mula Bandha. Okay, so we can just allow the palms to rest gently on the knees in Jnana Mudra with the index finger and the thumb touching, and you can quiet your breath, sit upright, tall, feel your spine, feel your breath. And then I'll begin, and just follow along as you're ready. Every time you chant Lam, we're going to draw the base of the body up. And actually, I'm going to add something here. I just remembered, I love this part. So as we chant Lam, we'll bring all the tips of the fingers together in this mudra. And then we'll open the hands back up as we release. So it's like this. Lam, 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 and take a full breath in. Allow your inner gaze to come to your third eye and draw the base of the body up. So Mula Bandha, squeeze and really focus at that third eye, drawing the energy all the way up, 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 up. And then exhale and soften. You can put the palms down. And so we'll begin to come into a Sufi grind, circulating that energy that we just activated. And this helps us to ground, circulate, feel the base of your body as you're rolling on all the four corners of your sitting bones. And just allow your body to move the way it wants to move. So you can be as exaggerated in this movement as feels good. And you can also be really slow and gentle and soft and subtle. And as you're ready, we'll just go the other direction to circulate in the other direction. Let the breath flow in and out. And as you're ready, come to stillness. And give yourself a few moments of silence, of stillness to feel your energy and what might have shifted from just this very short practice. Notice if you can feel your root chakra a little bit more open, maybe more receptive to the energy of the earth. Maybe your spine feels like there's a little more flow of energy in it. And we'll close this short practice with just 3 cleansing breaths. So we'll inhale through the nose. And then with a soft sigh from the mouth, exhale. And let all the energy ground back down into earth. Inhale through the nose. Exhale. You can let out a sound with this final one. Big breath in.
Thank you, Dayna.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
That
that's
helped
beautiful.
a little bit.
Yeah. So thank you so much for tuning in to Yoga Talks Live. And make sure that if you're interested in learning any more of these practices, check out Dayna's classes on Gaia. She's in the Yoga Everyday series. And next week we'll be back same time with Nicole Golden talking about the importance of a yoga morning ritual. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Namaste.